Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the Hornet Sting dev server, and it's time to have a look at a new Canadian vehicle that is coming into the game. This is the Rapier, or specifically the Tracked Rapier Launch Vehicle RCM-748. This is coming to the British tech tree, and it is of British origin, but they've decided to slap a Canada flag on it, which is kind of fun. Maybe in the future, we could get some unique camos or something for it because of that. So what is this vehicle? Well, it's basically just a tracked version of the Rapier anti-air system, which you can see on the back. This gives it access to the fun missiles and then also access to a mobile platform to use them on, which I think is pretty cool. The platform itself has access to a 213 horsepower diesel engine. It also has a transmission, which means that it will move around at a decent click, but obviously in general, that isn't really like the reason why you play this vehicle, not really its mobility. You can actually see it has the updated X-ray though, which actually looks really cool on the vehicle, and also quite a nice gunner's optics, along with a really coolly modeled radiator, the power system at the back, and then the electronic equipment, the radar, and also all of the other factors. So the vehicle has access to a search radar. This is the Rapier TA. Has a okay range. You know, it'd be nice if it had a longer one, but because of the range of the missiles, it's not really needed. And then also it has access to a tracking radar, which you can see here. And once again, basically has the same track as the other one. It does have an IRST type, so therefore it can also not be seen, which is kind of cool. It does have 3 members of crew, all in the front of the Rapier that you can see here, and then the driver's control and also the radio station behind. So this joins a long line of AAs that have been added to this area of the British tree recently. You have the Stormer AD, Stormer HVM, that's been there the longest, and then also the OSA and the Strela. This has been a way of trying to improve this area of the tech tree for the British, and now we have the Rapier, which is actually before them all. So another 10.0 SBAA. It does offer something different to the Stormer though, which is really nice. Basically a longer range version, which I think overall is incredibly powerful. So now we can have a look at the armor. It only has 20 millimeters in most of it, 40 millimeters of kind of armored glass for the crew, and then 5 millimeters behind. You're not surviving if you're getting a hit in this thing. That's pretty much a given. So you are a fully more offensive capable vehicle. This vehicle does have access to scouting because it's more of an anti-air vehicle than anything else. They obviously don't see it as a vehicle that can attack the ground units, which is kind of interesting. And then also it gets access to thermals. They're only Gen 1, but, you know, at least you can tell what the sky is compared to the planes around. These smoke grenades are also sat in the front, which is quite good. So if you do get attacked by anything, then you're able to pop them and hide in them, especially if it's guided munitions. One of the things that it is a bit of a problem with, though, is this kind of gets in the way of the arc of the missiles. So therefore, you're going to have to kind of turn the vehicle to be able to set the missiles off. You can also see it does have smoke grenades on the back, though, giving you a full 360-degree effect at the smoke, so helping you out against pretty much everything about. So let's talk about the missiles. You have a stock missile. This is the Rapier Mark 1E. Doesn't have a lot of penetration, has a decent amount of TNT, so it should overpressure stuff, and also has a range of 7 kilometers. Not a crazy maximum speed, but this does mean it's quite maneuverable, which is quite nice around the place. You then also have the Rapier Mark II, which is the upgraded missile. You get it at rank 2. It's exactly the same as the Mark 1E right now. The only difference between them is this missile has access to an 8-kilometer launch range instead of a 7-kilometer launch range. Everything else is exactly the same. And there is, I suppose, a slight speed difference as well, so it'll get a bit quicker to the target. So this one just has a slightly better motor than the Mark 1E. Everything else is there. They're SACLOS, so they're basically optically guided, which is fine with the search and tracking radar, and makes them a lot easier to use compared to some of the other AAs around the place. Because one of the problems with, let's say, the Stormer AD, for example, this one uses stingers. Stingers are very maneuverable. They're great against planes, but you know what they're not very good against? They're not very good against helicopters. Helicopters are some of those vehicles which really are hard to lock onto because of the fact they don't have a huge heat signature. Whereas the Rapier will have absolutely no problem with this and make it a lot better against helicopters and also against longer range vehicles. So since it's a vehicle in the British tech tree, it gets access to all of these standard kind of British camos. As I said, it would be kind of cool if in the future they could get some kind of interesting Canadian camos, which could be about. I think that would generally be quite cool, but not yet, maybe in the future. And then also you can change all of the radar modes before you go into the battle, which I think is kind of cool and fun that they actually give you access to them. This is something which generally they have started doing for a lot of machines, so not just planes, but also ground vehicles, and it just makes things a little bit easier. So you can see that this thing has an IRST, and also it does kind of lock on if you're using that mode, but you have to do it when you are in the standard one. If you actually change the one, if I can remember how to do it, basically it just gives you like a standard setup, so you can lock it with just in like third person, but the IRST just gives you that extra ability to be a little bit better. Here, I'll show you what I mean. Because it means that the enemy doesn't know that you're tracking it, which is huge for a missile system like this. But you can see here, like in third person, you can lock it with the standard one if you want to, and that means it's a little bit easier to see where the targets are. As I said, it does have thermals, not great thermals, but good enough. And then the missiles themselves, they are quite maneuverable in terms of what you can do. So you remember what I said about this area in the front kind of getting the way? So this is kind of like where you're able to actually put the kind of missiles if you're firing forward, and this limits your ability to use them, and it also means that they just don't track very well. Like it's as if like the tracker just kind of disappears and you can't really do anything with it. But if you are side on with this type of vehicle, so like this for example, it just makes it a little bit easier to be able to move around with. So the maneuverability of this missile is very good. You can see there it's very similar to the older missiles and before they were changed, which is kind of surprising because I thought in general that was something that they were going away from, but I think it's kind of cool that is the case. It has either a 10 or 15 kilometer range on it, but just remember with these missiles, they don't really generally engage over 7 or 8 kilometers. By the way, just to show you kind of the maneuverability, you can see here, as I said, it's a lot better than the previous ones. Of course it gets worse with range, but generally it's a lot more maneuverable than stuff like the Flak Panzer, for example, which struggles at most ranges to be that useful. So at shorter ranges you'll be able to just pop targets really well with the proximity, and then also with others you'll be able to deal with them at longer range too. And with the thermals, you'll be able to see the targets as well. So for me, when I look at a vehicle like this, what I see is one which will be able to attack stuff at many different ranges and also not have the issues with IR kind of seeking, which is the issue with stuff like the Stormer AD, and it doesn't have the issues of the Stormer HVM where it's a kinetic penetrator, so you have to actually hit the target with it to be able to take it out. So in general, the Rapier should just be easier to use than all of them, and that is fantastic. That's kind of what you want in terms of this type of vehicle. Now, is it going to be one that's going to be crazy powerful, moving around? Probably not. But at the same time, it's one that will be survivable and will be able to do its job, which is as a standard SBAA. And that's all you can ask for a vehicle like this, and the BR that it's in, which is a very strong BR for Britain, especially around the challenges and also the Vickers, which is there. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.